That's what I thought too. Should I drop the other one? Good evening. Welcome to the April 8th Public Works Session of the Rockville Center Board of Education. Can I have a motion to retire to executive session to discuss safety procedures, IEPs of students, and specific personnel appointments? A second? All in favor? Aye. Okay, thank you very much. We will see you at 7:30 PM for our public session. Thanks. I'm going to really pass it right over to the superintendent. It's a public works session. We're going to go through our budget timeline and process this evening. There is no opportunity for visitors, but we're just going to go through our agenda and get some updates on how things are going on the administration side. We're going to do the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm sorry about that. Please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And there are emergency exits on either side for our visitor. And back to you, Mr. Chang.
Thank you, Madam President. I just want to go over the budget timeline real quick. Just remind everybody as well that this year we have a 0% tax levy increase with the proposed budget that we had and we've put out. We will be also going through the next couple of meetings. Will be the preliminary budget hearing, which will be April 20th, which is the last date for any changes to the budget, and then we will have the formal budget hearing where no changes are allowed. That will happen on May 6th. And then the budget vote in the annual election will be on May 18th. So we are kind of gearing up to all the points that we've been talking about, particularly last meeting. We talked about the capital projects as well as staffing, all the additions that we've had and put into place to ensure that we are able to provide an excellent academic experience for our students. And I just want to also reiterate that the purpose of the budget itself shows what we value. And what we value is the student experience. What we value is what we provide for our students and the level of excellence that we want to continue and maintain. So that's the timeline of the budget and the purpose of why we put together this budget. And then the other thing that I kind of really want to also kind of bring to light, I know that we had some questions about an article that came out about an audit that was done about our school district. It was something that was done prior to myself, but it was mostly about transparency on our website and what documents that we needed to have up. I can tell you that in most certain terms that all the documents that we should have had up and the visibility of those documents were pretty plainly in sight on our website. And I think there's a discrepancy in terms of titles of what was meant, what it was labeled in terms of the wording on our website. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to pass the floor over to Mr. Bartels to kind of talk about the audit and what they were looking for and what our steps were in terms of changing the benign kind of recommendation that they gave. And the key point here is that these were just recommendations. They weren't requirements that they were evaluating us on.
Yeah, thank you. So this audit was on the school district website and basically looking at our transparency in providing the information, as Mr. Chung had stated, that we have our budget information out there, as well as any audits and corrective action plans. So this audit was really done in two parts. The first was an audit directly of Rockville Center, and then there was a second audit release, which is the one you referenced in the paper, for a number of school districts where the Office of the State Comptroller combined audits from several different school districts to do one presentation. So just a couple of comments. When we went through, I think Rockville Center fared very well in this audit. The documents that they were looking for were posted. Some of the concerns that the state had, we have some question about. So for example, they said we didn't post our final budget that was approved by the voters on the district website. Well, it's not really true. We posted the correct budget that the voters approved. The only difference was we didn't change the word proposed to final. So that was one of their discrepancies. So based on that one word, they stated we didn't post the final budget, but it was posted. Another issue they had was where the documents were located on the website. So they said if they couldn't find them quickly, that we weren't being transparent. So the documents were posted on the website, just in some cases, you had to kind of go down 2 or 3 levels to get to them. So that was another piece to it. Then there were a couple of recommendations for best practices. There were 2 of them that they had recommended. The district did do one of them, one of their best practices. The other one we didn't do. But when we look at it in terms of their overall audit of all the districts, most of the districts did not do their best practices. So what the state controller considers best practices are really not something that are done in most of the school districts. So I'm not sure where they got that point of being best practices. I would encourage the community to read both of the reports. They're on the state controller's website. We will have them on our website shortly since they were just released. We have the individual audit for Rockville Center, which will include our response with our corrective action plan. And I would hope everybody would look through and please read it, because just going by what, Newsday reports isn't always the best way to go. I think you get a good reading of this when you look at it. And also read the document, the comparison of the multitude of school districts that the audit did. We do fare very well, especially when you look at that best practices. So when you consider the best practices and you look at the audit report, Rockville Center has most of we actually complied with their best practices more than all of the other school districts. So I would encourage everybody to look at those reports, and we do fare very well in the audits.
Thank you, Robert. I'm going to ask one more favor of you tonight, if you don't mind. Could you go over the state aid numbers?
Sure. We were actually very surprised. The state aid numbers just came out. We will not have any reductions in our state aid. In fact, it looks like we're going to have approximately a 20% increase, which is a little shocking to all of us. So we're in the process of looking at that and analyzing it to make sure it's real. The big increases in foundation aid, that's really where we're getting all the money. We had a large increase, especially in comparison to some other districts. So we want to make sure that that's real, that there's no mistake in that, and that it's going to be an ongoing commitment from the state. So our concern is this could be a one-time issuance due to the large influx of federal funding we got this year. We have not seen any conditions that this would go away after 1 year, but we need to be very careful with any of these state aid numbers. So, but we did do very well in terms of how much extra money we're getting in state aid for next year.
Could you just clarify what sorts of things could be afforded with foundation aid specifically, since it's so specific?
Well, foundation aid really is a general aid for virtually everything we do in the school district.
Okay.
As compared to some of the expense-driven aids that we have, such as building aid or BOCES aid or transportation aid.
Okay.
So the foundation aid is a general allotment of money that is provided to all school districts. Most districts are not at their top level. For example, our foundation aid theoretically should be a little over $10 million. We were at about $5 million, so now we're up in the high sixes. So that was the large increase, an increase of over $1 million in foundation aid. That really would be a great source of support for the district going forward.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. One of the things that I think the staff has done a really good job of, and particularly the business office, is kind of looking at ensuring that whatever we do put into place, that it's sustainable and that it's long-term. And I think that's a key component of success as well. It's not just about the one-time buys and the one-time things that we bring in, and we really need to be able to sustain that year over year. Anything that we look at data-wise, or whether it's new professional development, it all builds on one year to the next. So that's been a key thing that we've kind of kept in mind, and even in my discussions with Mr. Bartels, it's been one of the key things is we don't ever want to be put in a situation where we put something in and have to take it back. That disjointment actually puts us in a situation that is not manageable to grow with, and we want to be a district that continuously progresses and grows. So thank you for that update, Mr. Bartels. I'm also going to move right on to the quarantine numbers, the remote numbers of students. So we know that we've had all our students back since right before we left on break. We came back, walking through the schools. The classrooms look much fuller. Kids look happier. Teachers look happy. It feels like it's a normal kind of school year. But we still do have some students that are out at the high school. We are at 228 students that are on remote. At the middle school, we have about 54 students that are on remote. So, the middle school is faring much better, and the high school numbers are starting to come down. I just want to remind everyone that we do have reentry points again in April, starting April 14th. So if people want to join us and come back in, that's an opportunity to do so. Additionally, since as of Tuesday, the number of cases thus far have been 15.
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
15, yeah. So we're managing, again, the best way that we can. Unfortunately, we haven't had to close classes, and we're working through it. And we knew that we would be in this situation and manage it. We knew we could manage it, so that's why we are able to bring students back. So that is where we are. Additionally, I want to end on a really positive note, is as we move more towards this, I guess, normal but new normal, we've made changes to clubs, sports, classrooms, 3 feet, barriers, all those things to allow students to be able to come back in. We're also making changes to our music program. So we're moving from the 12 feet down to 8 feet, and at 8 feet is what's been advised by the Department of Health, that they wouldn't need to quarantine at that point if they're at the 8 feet mark in those music classes. So that's another change that we're coming in place. So we're all moving. We're a couple of days away from the weekend, but we also just kind of came off of the break. So we're excited to see what the rest of the month brings, and going into spring and the end of the year activities with positivity and happiness to be back in the schools. I will give it back to you, Madam President.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Chang or Mr. Bartels?
One quick question, Robert. The state aid numbers, it was remarkable, the increase, but some of that money is for programs that we don't have or use. Can you, sorry.
Sure. There is, one portion of the increase that we got was for pre-kindergarten programs. So about $500,000 in the overall number was for pre-kindergarten program, but we're pretty close to a $2 million increase without that $500,000. So.
Okay, and then just back on that audit, I think we talked about this about 2 months ago, or a month and a half ago when it first came out. All of the recommendations, have they been done already? That they requested of us?
Yes, yeah.
The changes have been made so that the budget that was passed now says final.
Right. Yep.
Well, there were the
Yeah.
the separation, though. There were 2 recommendations, and one of them, for example, we didn't want to take the recommendation. I think it was about putting a 5-year budget plan, for an
Correct.
example. That was a recommendation
Correct.
that we didn't have to do and chose not to.
Correct.
But the ones that we had to fix, we did fix.
Correct.
I was frustrated by the headline of the article because it really implied that we had done something wrong. First of all, we were audited randomly. We weren't chosen because we had done something wrong. We were, like Robert said, just in a pack of other schools. but, headlines tell a story sometimes that doesn't tell the whole picture,
Yeah,
so I
it
appreciate that.
It was important. We were a little concerned also that they were holding us to a standard that there was no requirement for.
Right,
So, you get a write-up saying you didn't do this, but there was no requirement to
Right.
do that. They claim it's best practice, yet very few school districts even do it.
right,
We were pretty much the only school district that did any of their
right.
best practices, so.
I appreciate you explaining it again, because I think we did talk about it, but when the article comes out, you kind of wonder, is something new? Right,
Forget,
right,
we spoke about it, a couple of months ago, and things have happened, and is this another?
right. It seems like it's new.
Right.
Right,
Right, which is also why I said, I would encourage people to go to
Yep.
this audit, we'll put it up on the website, we'll probably get it up tomorrow, and look at it and read it, and compare the one with the other school districts and look where we stand. So I think,
And I know one of the comments of the superintendent from another school district who had the same comment about you didn't mark it final was, really? It's the budget. It was voted on and it passed,
and it was posted.
and it's posted, so.
Right, so the auditor's comment was, we didn't even post it. So, a better comment from the auditor would be, it was not labeled correctly, so.
Right.
But to say it wasn't even posted is just.
Any other questions for Mr. Chang and Mr. Bartels? Thank you both. Okay, we're going to move on to our policies and superintendent regulations. So we had tabled a discussion a few meetings back on our memorial policy. We're putting that back up tonight. That's 3170. We have kind of been getting a little bit more of a professional opinion about some of the items that lie within the corners of the policy. So I'm going to just jump in and open it up to board members for any pieces of the policy that they'd like to discuss or any questions that remain, and just open it up.
Something that was advised to us was to emphasize the celebration of life part of it, so I think it's important to include that in the opening paragraph towards the end, somewhere in the policy, in terms of the purpose of the policy. I think it's important to include some terminology. I think maybe probably towards the therefore sentence.
And probably throughout the whole policy, right? There are opportunities to, I agree, include that we're looking for ways to celebrate the lives of the people who are not with us. Are we in agreement at the core of the policy that we were going to treat all tragic death the same way? And that really is at the foundation of what the policy is built upon. We had discussion about it in the past, but I think we have to come to consensus on if at the core we agree that that's what we want to do going forward, because then it kind of is woven through the rest of the policy. As a starting point, just want to know if we have a consensus on that.
I think it was clear in our conversation that, everything had to be treated equal. Everything, to me, anyway, has to be treated the same across the board. We can't.
Mr. O'Shea? Okay, so we do all agree. We are missing one board member this evening, but I think in the discussions we've had, it seems we were all pretty much on that same page of basing the policy around that core value. So I wanted to clear that up because we had that discussion in the past. Then we start talking within the policy about things that are permissible versus things that would be prohibited under the policy. So we're talking about living memorials as being something we would continue to do. We talked about existing memorials that are already on campus that would remain, would not be removed. And then we start to get into specifics, and we start to get into yearbooks, graduation recognition, pop-up memorials. There's a section there about permissible memorial activities. And that's where there's been, I think, the bulk of our discussion. So I think we need to come to terms on how we feel about yearbook tributes, I'll call them, because they're non-specific the way they're written here, so it's not even to say they're pages or pictures, but any sort of acknowledgement in a yearbook, I would like to get some input from the board on where they stand on that.
I'll say that as hard as it may seem, or, I mean, some people may think it's unfortunate, but I think that, you know, in the guidance that we've received from some people of expertise, it's my take from that it would be hard to make it work in the yearbook, memorial pages, and, you know, this is my opinion, I don't know how it really feels. And graduation is as difficult, mentioning the name, you know, has been spoken, but not doing, you know, much anything else, nothing in addition to that. So that's kind of how I stand, and I think that, and unfortunately, we should not let the recognition of the students, who has passed in any way, be shown in the yearbook.
Okay.
I don't know how everybody else took that, the advice we were given, so I'd like to hear from everybody.
No, I agree with you, Mr. Arche. Given the guidance that we were given, it seems as if we are potentially triggering other students with, memorializing that in the yearbook. So I'm okay with not having it in the yearbook as hard as that would be as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's difficult. It's a difficult decision, it's difficult to face, and I think what we also need to make clear is whatever we did in the past was the past, and we need to walk forward. But I also, we can't parse tragedy. We can't do that, so.
And just to be clear, because the policy is in this stage, whatever was planned already for this current yearbook stands. So we're not removing anything that might have appeared in the, I just want to be clear about that. Class of 2021 yearbook is set and done. We're talking about future yearbooks. But I also understand that concern, and I was willing to find maybe a different approach to the yearbook, but I think that's tricky. You know, I wish that we could list people without photographs, and maybe that could be a way to acknowledge them. If we went that route, I would think about something like that, but I think tribute pages can trigger, and what we've learned concerns me. So I'm on board to remove it completely if we feel like that's something that's more healthy, because I want to do what's right for our community. I think we need to specify the graduation recognition. That's the advice that we were also given, that we need to spell out what it actually is. So graduation recognition would literally be an acknowledgement of naming a person that would have been part of the class. And I believe that would be the end of that acknowledgement. There would not be a chair, or they would not be part of the procession. So we'd have to maybe find words to clarify that acknowledgement of the name of the student there, just so going forward years from now, if we're not here, or administrators aren't here, that is pretty clear. So let's go back to your books. Are we agreeing that we're going to remove that bullet? Strike
Yeah.
the bullet?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Kelly? Yes. And for graduation, we
removing
agree,
it?
we're going to keep the acknowledgement in, but we're going to specify,
I
I'm
think we
sorry,
need
I
to
have a question.
wordsmith the graduation.
right.
The yearbook, are you removing it altogether, or are you going to put it in prohibited?
I think we have to do both. I think we have to remove it from this section, but I think it has to appear in the list of prohibited activities. I think we have to
If
kind of.
we're not allowing it,
It
I
has to be
think we need
mentioned,
to,
yeah.
we can't have our administrators in 5 years,
Right.
like, be
Go through that.
arguing. Right. We
Yeah.
need to be clear, and I think that was like the other thing that we really heard tonight.
Right.
Was that it needs to be as clear as possible, so
Yep.
that people don't, it makes it easier for everyone as we go forward.
Okay.
Right, and then going back to Mrs. Hackett's point about graduation recognition under permissible, we have to strengthen that language. But then under prohibited, I think we brought this up a couple of meetings ago, it has commencement there. So I think we just have to make sure that we clear both of that up.
And just to bounce off what Mrs. Dion said, we are making these changes because we've learned. In the past, it wasn't something that we really talked about. And we're learning more and more every day, and what is safe for everybody in the community is something that's coming to the surface, and that's why we're reacting this way, just to keep our community safe. And it will be hard for some people to I guess, acknowledge or accept this, but it's for the safety of all the kids that, that we are dealing with. The children need, as we've been told, and we've learned, that the children need protections, that some of these things have triggered the wrong thing in the past, and we don't want to do that. Life's tough enough. We need to help them get through things as easy as possible.
And I think to that point as well, research changes as well, right? So what we didn't know a few years ago and what they're saying today could change, and I think that that's part of the board's responsibility, is to make sure that our policies are current, up to date, and as new information comes to us and we're getting more advice or more research coming through, that we're committed to, revising this as needed. So one thing that I know Mr. O'Shea had brought up in a past meeting, and we vetted as well, was about the extra classroom activity funds being used. The way it's written here, I think, is correct. We have it that it cannot be used to support, finance, or fundraise for memorialization. So in other words, not for the specific and express purpose of memorializing somebody, but I think that we could add language. I don't know if it's in the permissible section or here, just to clarify. I think that there's a comfort level here of us having extra classroom activity funds benefit foundations that then benefit programs for students. And they may be in the name of somebody who's deceased, but it's not, the purpose is not to memorialize that individual, but more to maybe support foundations, because we've heard senior classes like to donate to different organizations and things that they feel benefit the students and the community. So how do we all agree that we'd like to keep the wording that we have in there, but just maybe tweak it to include what is permissible for extra classroom activity funds?
In my personal opinion, I think we need to leave that there in prohibited memorial activities and add wordage in the acceptable.
Okay.
Because if we put both under
Right.
that one title, I think it may be more confusing.
Okay,
Yeah,
yep,
I agree,
okay.
absolutely.
Other things that were, came to light, or conversations that we wanted to have here?
One thing was mentioned, strike the word anniversary.
Yes.
Oh, right, right.
And throughout, I know somebody said it throughout, where we mention, oh, I need my glasses, I'm sorry. Where we mention memorial of some type, put the honoring the memory, instead it should read honoring the life.
For life.
Yeah.
I think we have to
Right,
make sure
yeah.
that's in.
I think
I
that
know
was
somebody
throughout
said
the
something,
whole-
but we
yes.
just need to go through
Yeah.
the.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think there's some wordsmithing that we need to do
And then
on the whole
also
policy.
add, somehow add community in the crisis, natural disaster or something, how it affects students, staff members,
Yeah, the fourth bullet under definitions.
fourth bullet
Add
being
community.
add the word community somehow.
Anything else for conversation tonight, discussion? I think we hit on the ones that were outstanding. If I could make a suggestion, maybe Mrs. Dion and I are on the policy committee, maybe we could bring it back, incorporate some of the wordsmithing that needs to be done with Mrs. Wong and Mr. Chang are also on the committee, bring it back to the next meeting, which is a regular meeting. If we're comfortable at least starting to amend language, are we comfortable with starting to move it forward? Because we're kind of at a core agreement on the policy, which we had not had in the past. we were not sure about certain things, but could we go back to policy, have it changes, but have it appear at stage 2 at the next meeting?
I think it should be at stage 1 still.
You want to keep it?
Don't,
I have no problem, but if Ms.
Yeah,
I'm
Dion
okay
is
with
more
it.
comfortable waiting, because it is significant change. So
Yeah.
maybe we need to see that significant change before we move it forward.
So then we'll go to policy committee, make the changes, bring it back out at stage 1 at our next meeting. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Okay,
And we're
All right.
still holding memorials at a moratorium in the district,
correct.
so.
Yes. Thank you. Yep. Okay, anything else anybody would like to add about that? I would like to also thank Mr. Murphy, who's done a tremendous amount of work on this policy with us, Dr. Leahy's input, and Ms. Deb Caputo's input. From the board, we really do thank all of those people for helping us. This is, what we've learned is not a quick turnaround sort of a policy, and we don't want it to be a rushed policy. We really have been thinking it through, and to Mr. Osho's point, we're really trying to make this feel right for the community and feel right for our students and be protective of our people. So thank you for your patience, everybody, as we go through it. And again, thank you to everybody who participated in helping us get here. So we'll move that to the next meeting. Okay. Moving right along. Anything else? Anybody would like to, any board member have any questions before we move on?
I just throw it out there, I've heard, and I think we're moving forward with graduation plans and prom plans. Is that, I don't think we've ever talked about it in public, have we? I don't
No.
recall.
No, it came up once, and we said they were starting to make plans. So at all levels, they're trying to finalize graduation. There is, dare I say, Plan A and Plan B on all those fronts. So I know that Mr. Murphy's been meeting with the student council almost bi-weekly to have those conversations revolving around prom, certainly, and as well as graduation. I know that he has spoken to the venue and is looking at some creative ways and options. And once he has that, which should be soon, rather soon, and we'll be able to send that out. And the same's been done with Mrs. McGinn as well, down at the middle school. So I would just say hold on tight. But we are looking to move forward with graduation and with prom and all end-of-year celebrations. They may look different. They may look different.
Yeah.
That's fine, but
Yeah.
we need celebration.
Yep.
We really do.
It's very exciting.
I think that I had also heard, Mr. Murphy had maybe said at a PTA meeting that he was still looking to move forward with the car parade as well, as an addition this year. Was that mentioned? I thought that was on the minutes I read.
Well, I'm not going to commit him
Okay.
to it specifically. I know that all ideas have been thought of and still continuing to be thought of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? Can I have a motion to approve the minutes, audit minutes from 3:25 and the minutes from the March 25th meeting?
So moved.
Just a quick question, Jackie. Was it the 24th, our meeting, or the 25th?
25th. Did I put the 24th?
No, it
Yeah,
says
you put
25th. I
25th.
thought it was the 24th, the meeting. So moved. Second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to approve the financial reports as listed?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Can I have a motion to accept the receipts of the financial reports as listed?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And can I have a motion to approve board actions A through E?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, any opposed? No. And can I have a motion to retire to executive session to discuss the specific personnel appointments?
So moved.
A second?
Second.
Okay. Thank you very much. Jackie, I'm sorry, what is our next meeting? April?
20th.
April
Preliminary
20th.
budget hearing.
It's a Tuesday, right?
Yes.
It's a Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday.
April
Messes
20th.
with everybody's schedule.
Thank you very much. Hope everybody's well, and take care. We'll see you soon.
Good night.
Good night.